We sing the national anthem at sporting events and other events. But what's another good song that we as Texans should sing to honor our heritage? Well, today we are talking to my friend Logan Treadaway about his quest to push a bill through the Texas House that will resonate with every Texan. It's about our heritage, our pride, and what it means to instill these values in the next generation. You don't want to miss this episode. Stay tuned. Well, hey, Logan, welcome to Patriots Revival Podcast. I'm so excited that you've decided to join us today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I appreciate letting me have the opportunity to speak about my bill proposal that I'm going to have in the legislature this upcoming session.
Tell
Yes,
everybody a little bit about yourself.
yes. I've born in Corsicana. I was raised in Ellis County all throughout my life. I'm a graduate of Venice High School, 2016. Then after that, I went on to receive my associate's of arts degree from Navarro College, and then after that, I went on to transfer to Sam Houston State. I earned my bachelor's of arts history with a minor secondary education. After that, I've been in education ever since 2021. I'm getting involved in politics too, and have a passion for kids and education, and also make sure we teach the next generation about how important it is to be an American and a Texan and our values around the state and in America.
Yeah, so you mentioned you're a history major. So why
Yes.
did you choose history?
So it's an interesting story about that. I actually wanted to be in criminal justice. That's why I went to Sam Houston, and my cousin went there, not for criminal justice, but it was like, yeah, he went to Sam Houston, so like I'm gonna go visit it, and it's like a prison town in Huntsville, Texas. If anybody doesn't know where Sam Houston State is, it's between Dallas and Houston off of 45, and not too far from College Station either. It's basically like a prison city. So they have 7 prisons in Huntsville. A lot of the college students not only go to class and study about criminal justice, they also work for the prison system too. So I got to see that firsthand whenever I was a student at Vero College, going in to visit the Huntsville unit, which is the oldest prison in the state of Texas. And that's where they actually execute people from around the state that come to Huntsville. So that was an interesting experience. And after that, I thought, I was going to do that. And I was like, maybe not, because that was a time when we had a lot of law enforcement officers getting ridiculed, and a lot of them are, dying because of getting assassinated because of, hatred against law enforcement and not having the respect that they have. So I was like, I might as well go in the classroom, and I've always had a passion for history and even for political science, for government. And I was like, I can do that in the classroom. So I decided that, it's best for me to go in the classroom and not risk my life out in the streets and trying to serve the community, even though we can serve the community in different aspects. So I was like, I might as well do it in the classroom, even though the classroom is getting a little crazier these days too. So
Yeah.
that's the reason why I got into the history, but also, like I said, history and politics and government, they kind of intertwine. So I've always been interested in that subject.
So when you say history, are
Mhm.
you interested more in world history, American
That's a
history,
good question.
Texas history?
Mhm.
Which is your favorite?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I would say American history, because it could teach people about, founding fathers since George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, John Quincy Adams, and also the Constitution, and about how our country evolved ever since the battles of Lexington Concord, the Declaration of Independence, and the present day, and how our country has triumphed over the past 200 years. Of course, I'm more suitable in that subject, but I just love how we can, a lot of stories of, even if we have wars, Vietnam or the Gulf War, it's probably during your time period, Persian Gulf War. Not only does it have, or it brings bloodshed or just tears and emotions, but also brings heroic stories too, sacrifices of make sure that we help one another, and that's exactly why there's always something that's darkness that can bring a light. That's why I always want to like to preach on that and also teach the next generation, especially students that I have about that. Every time there's something dark in the world or something in the past, something there's light always comes out of that too. Great stories. So that's why I always like American history a lot because of that.
So why do you think it is important that, especially American history,
Mhm.
that students continue to learn that and it's taught in schools? Because as you know, there's a lot of things being taught in schools today that really kids shouldn't be
Mhm.
taught, things that maybe parents should be going over with them, like sex ed and all that stuff.
Oh
But
yeah.
I've been out
Mhm.
of the school system. I'm much older than you for many, many years. Talk a little bit about the importance of kids, school kids,
Right.
still learning about our heritage and our American history.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So the reason why, teaching our kids about history is because we have the students think that, oh, it's just it's boring, it's old, a bunch of white guys or dead people, whatever it is, and like I said, now you said it's sex ed and things that I have now. We need to make sure that we teach students about these so-called dead white people or dead guys. They're the ones who brought the foundation of the Constitution and the First Amendment. If we didn't have the First Amendment, have Second Amendment, we wouldn't have the opportunity to talk about these situations if it wasn't for the First Amendment. And not only that, what if we had a quartering of soldiers still today? We have this, in our bedrooms and our houses. That's why it's important to not only talk about these situations to the students today, talk about the sex ed part too, is that I think abstinence is crazy how, we gotta make sure we teach kids abstinence. Now they're teaching kids these days how to use some you know, all kinds of graphic stuff. It's not suitable for the podcast, but then I'm talking about. So it's crazy that how we're shifting from teaching our foundations and principles on Constitution and how, oh, it's not okay to say if you a lot of times if you're a Christian because they might bring in religion in the classroom, and which is crazy because there's a law right there. You can put "In God We Trust" posters in the classrooms and even in educational buildings in public K through 12. It's also important to teach kids that how we're shifting is because how these people that came before us, how they had their own, dreams on, they were young ones. So every time I teach kids that, these because they're old or they're something that we don't talk about anymore. They were young once, like we are now. So, but it's crazy how education is shifting. It's not for the good anymore. We need to have various reforms. We can have that for another podcast discussion. I just think that, your podcast, Patriots Revival. So I think we need to have that revival in the classroom. I know there's a bill out that posts the 10 commandments, also bringing prayer back into school. So if we can have that in the classroom, I think that would be a whole lot better to make sure that, students are not doing the things that we don't want them to do because it's not right that we have to teach kids abstinence or, you know, not to have kids after before they, it's not good to teach kids not to have kids before they get married, but after they get married, it's like, all these things out there. It's just it's really horrific that we have to teach that in today's world. But that's why we need that revival. We need that spiritual awakening to teach the next generation that it's not that we need to have that revival and it's not okay to do the things that they see on their phones or, Instagram or TikTok or whatever have you. But yeah.
You filed a bill in the House, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep. Let's talk a little bit about the bill.
So last year was about May 2024. I've always thought that we play the national anthem. Let me go back before that. We play the Pledge of Allegiance to school. We do the honor the Texas flag. We do the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag. All right. That's amazing. I'm so glad we do that. And we honor God. It's under God. And we also play the national anthem at sporting events. So of course people, they don't understand that, we worst we do the Pledge of Allegiance in classrooms. We sing the national anthem at sporting events, mainly football games, and then of course basketball games and various other sports out there. Because you're an Aggie.
Yeah.
Now A&M, they play Texas at the football games. Now, according to, of course, Cody Harris, and we'll get into that a little bit because he's an Aggie too. What I was thinking is, well, if we play the national anthem, how come we can't play our state song? Because the story behind it is beautiful. And before I get into that, so we're playing the national anthem, we're not playing our state song. And I was like, well, what could a better way to make sure that all Texans come together and play our state song at sporting events, mainly football games, but we're probably gonna add another discussion about, adding various sports, but mainly football games. And so I was like, you know what? That's a great idea. I made some phone calls. Trust me, I made all kinds of phone calls to all state representatives. I have tons of respect for, Brian Harrison, for anybody who I reached out to. I know some of them wouldn't take the bill, and then I'm not nothing against them. I know they have other bills they have to get, passed and or they filed. That's the one of their priorities. So I reached out to Cody Harris. I reached out to his office, to the district director in Palestine, and said that he loves the idea. This was late May of 2024. She said that, he loved the idea, and why don't you come to Palestine and we'll discuss it with the chief of staff and the legislative director. So I was like, okay, I am willing to drive to Palestine if something can happen out of this. So on my way on to Palestine, Texas, this was in early June. So the first week of June, I went to Palestine. It was a long road trip. Of course, I've been on longer road trips, but it was worth it because having a meeting, I did appreciate that they wanted me to hear me out on what I wanted to propose. So, first of all, I wanted to propose that we have it not only at public K through 12 sporting events. So, for the listeners, this is mainly high school sports, public school only, not private school because they're going to have the so-called unfunded mandates, and I wanted to make sure a bill gets passed, and there's not going to be a whole lot of uproar out there regarding that. So I made sure to put it on public schools only. I also wanted it to be for higher education, and I said I made that clear to Representative Cody Harris's office, and I said, why can't we do that? Because because Cody Harris said that he's an Aggie too. He's a graduate of A&M, and he said that I mean they play at the games, So I was like, why can't we do that across all colleges, public colleges of higher institutions of public education? And they were like, well, maybe you're going to have UT or Texas Tech or all of these bigger public schools are going to say, well, maybe, it's kind of controversial to have the word, God in the bit in the song because God's in the song. So I was like, okay, well, I guess we'll just in our meeting, we'll just focus on having it for public K through 12 sporting events and not public institutions of higher education until another legislative session. So right now, this is kind of like the guinea pig bill. We'll see how. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm not saying it's not going to get any great reception. I would expect, and I have great reception about this bill. Make sure we play at our public K through 12 schools. So I'm thinking if it gets popular, I mean it should be popular, then we have a pretty good chance coming next session down the road to have it at public institutions of higher education throughout the state of Texas. So even Sam Houston or SFA, A&M, or now it's East Texas A&M University out in Commerce. So we had a discussion about that. So we went on to, and he said he would after the meeting, the legislative director and the chief of staff said that they're going to put it in the legislative council, and after that, we went on from there, and ever since we've been in communication, and I got the bill draft. I believe it was October. Yes, October of this past fall in 2024. And the thing about it was a may issue, not a shall issue. So we made sure to change it to shall issue. So mandating for school boards to have it on for public K through 12 and not have it where schools can say, "Oh, you know what? we don't want to deal with that because it has God in it. So we're just going to pass it along." So it might create a patchwork, even though people are gonna say, "Well, it's going to be a mandate because we're mandating public school boards." Well, adopt a policy. Well, we're not mandating the school district. The school board come up with their own idea. So it's not going to be like, oh, here you go, school district. TA commissioners going to inform the school boards of the school district to come up with their own policy on how to implement this legislation. So so now it's a shall issue. So it was a may issue, which means it would be on a may issue basis on so schools can might do it or not do it. So now it's a shall issue. So I think that's that teeth in the bill that I was so happy that it was included in it. And Cody Harris, I'll give him credit for that. He wanted it to have it because he wanted to make sure that all the schools in the state of Texas wanted to have that to make sure that we honor our state. So all 254 counties that has public K through 12 schools. Well, yeah, also, and I didn't mention public charter schools too are going to be a part of this too. So not only public K through 12 schools, but also public charter school bills. Yeah. So that's where it's at. Um,
Yeah, so you filed the bill,
Mm.
or
yes.
you convinced Representative Cody Harris
Mhm. Yes.
to file the bill,
Hmm.
and now what we need to do in order
Hmm.
to give it life or kind of get it going
Hmm.
is we're trying to get it, if I understand you correctly, or if I know the process, we really need the education committee
Yes.
we need this to be put on the schedule for them to even discuss it, right? To
Yes.
have people
So,
like yourself or
mhm,
anybody else who this might be very important to, for
right.
them to discuss it and hopefully get this moved out of committee. Is that correct?
So right now it's still filed, but I mean, I'm 99% sure that's going to be referred to the Public Education Committee. It's still not referred yet, but it will be referred to the Public Education Committee because I'm putting that emphasis on what I'm hearing from. I'm not saying they're all right, but I'm pretty confident. I wouldn't be saying that's not going to be referred because if I wasn't confident, it more than likely will be referred to the Public Education Committee. So that's why we need, like you're talking about, people to show up and support. Like I said, we need everybody to voice their support on the House Education and Public Committee to support House Bill 2171.
Yeah. Yes. So, Logan, tell everybody how they would
Mhm.
do that.
Yes, so they can call each members on the House Education Committee regarding the bill and making sure they voice their support on that issue.
What's the bill number,
Yes,
Logan?
yes, it's House Bill 2171.
Okay. Folks, I will give all of
Mhm,
you the names and numbers of the representatives who are on the committee so you
mhm.
can call and blow up their phones. We will also put an alert on our Patriots Revival Facebook page so people can know who to contact and whatnot, because it's
Yes,
very important to blow up their phones. I think Kathy Ponce told me one phone call equals 10 voters, I believe.
I won't doubt it. Yes. Mhm.
So, well, good. So, any final thoughts or
Final thoughts are we're back to making phone calls. I hope everybody makes the phone calls, and I am also putting my faith in making sure, I can't do this without, God, and I can't, because I don't think I would be in a situation if I didn't have, God on my side and Jesus, in the faith, because I honestly wouldn't think that I wouldn't be in a situation if I didn't have the faith because I don't even know thought anybody would take the bill, and they could just say, you know what, we got other bills that we could file or do, and not even bring this up because school choice bill. Well, this is very important, but want to thank God for this and making sure that it's not only just on me, it's always on our Creator shoulders on this. And I just hope that everybody voices their support and hope they contact their state representatives on the House Education Committee. And then if we want to do another podcast, if we get to the Senate or goes to the Senate, then voice the support for the Texas Senate, and hopefully it will pass the legislature, and hopefully it will get to Governor Abbott's desk and become law in 2026. We can all sing Texas Our Texas at public K through 12 sporting events, and it would be a great opportunity to have the next generation to have patriotism, and not only that we do for America, but we also do for our state. So,
That's awesome. I totally agree with you on giving God the glory and God the
mhm.
credit. So,
Yes.
that's all about our creator. Yeah, so this is very exciting, Logan. It's like I told you the other day. Please keep us updated
Mhm.
because I will be happy to go and
Mhm.
share testimony down in Austin or provide some public comment, do everything that we can to help get this bill pushed through committee and maybe even make it to a House floor vote. And like you say, hopefully, if it passes that far, then maybe it'll head over to the Senate and then
Yeah.
it'll pass. And then you could be standing there next to Governor Abbott and
Yeah.
maybe Cody Harris as being the author
Yeah.
of the bill to see this
Right.
come to fruition.
Yes, absolutely. That's a goal. Taking it day by day. No, I guess not being arrogant about it, but making sure that everything is. I'm being very humble, and that's what Bob talks about. Humble yourself before the Lord, and that's exactly what I'm doing day by day, and we'll see where it goes for sure.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Logan. We really appreciate you being on today.
Thank you, Melly, for letting me be here.
Well, folks, that concludes our interview with my friend Logan Treadaway and his quest to require K through 12 students to sing our state song, Texas Our Texas, at public school and public charter school events here in Texas with House Bill 2171, which I think is a great idea. So, your altar call for today is to call members of the House Education Committee and encourage them to get House Bill 2171 into their committee so that they can discuss this and hopefully it will be voted out of committee and onto the House floor so that the entire House of Representatives vote and get one part of the process down. Logan's idea to have Texas Our Texas sung at K through 12 sporting events here in Texas. So, folks, we really want you to call all of these representatives on the House Education Committee, blow up their phones and tell them you want them to put House Bill 2171 on their docket in the committee. We will include all of the contact names and numbers in the show notes, but also if you are unable to get our show notes, go to our public Facebook page. It's Patriots Revival. If just go into Facebook and find us on Patriots Revival, and we will have an urgent altar call with all of this information there for you. So that's what we want you to do. Blow up the phones, melt the phones, and let's help out our friend Logan Treadaway to get his bill to move forward in the Texas House and maybe eventually in the Texas Senate. Well, that's all we have for you on this week's episode of Patriots Revival. We hope you've enjoyed this episode, and don't forget our ending verse on 119:25 that says, "Though I lie in the dust, revive me by your word." Dust off that Bible, folks. Get in God's word. We'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode. If you enjoyed the show, please follow us and tell others. If today's show revived your faith and your inner patriot, join the Patriots Revival Facebook group by going to facebook.com/groups/Patriots Revival. for resources on how to get involved in being salt and light in a world of darkness. Finally, if you would like to contribute to the production costs of the Patriots Revival podcast, you can do so through Zelle by inputting info@patriotsrevival.com as the recipient. Thanks again for listening. I hope you have a reviving week.